Hello, everybody. So I just wanted to make another stock market overview. And I did notice that there's a lot of new subscribers. I don't really know where they all came from, but welcome. I'm glad to have you. And leave a comment in the channel. I'm just a little curious who these people actually are sometimes, because sometimes all these subscribers come in, and I'm just like, well, who the heck are these people? Where did they come from? And I have a good idea of where they came from, but I'm a little bit curious, like who these people are. Just say hi or whatever. I don't really care about the YouTube algorithms. Leave a comment or whatever. I'm just kind of curious who you are. So just say hi. Don't be shy. And going right into the video. So the first thing that I want to talk about today is earlier this morning. It was probably about like 14 hours or so ago. We had some Chinese officials say that they wanted to try and wrap up COVID lockdowns by the 20th of May. So here's this article right here. It's from NBC News. Officials in Shanghai, which has been on lockdown for weeks as officials battle China's worst coronavirus outbreak since the start of the pandemic, said Friday that they aim to achieve zero cases outside quarantine by May 20th. So you know what? This could be like a bullish catalyst, or maybe they could just extend this out. Who knows? But I mean, May 20th. So we have something to look forward to on that day. That day also happens to be options expiration day. It's the third Friday of the month. So we could see some crazy price action then. So who knows? But going back into the technicals, I'm going to start with Apple. So if you watched yesterday's video, there was something I was really paying attention to. It was, let's zoom in here, that Doji candle. So when you see a doji like this, essentially, that means that the market is uncertain. So they're going to wait to see what the next day's price action is. So a doji isn't bullish or bearish, but it depends on the next day. So the next day, which was today, this is looking much more bullish. And as you can see, we're back in this trend channel. We're back above this prior resistance line, and we're back above this support line. So as of now, this looks okay. And we could maybe continue to expect that this line is going to be support here. So as of now, we look okay. Now, where do I think, if we continue this rally, where do I think Apple could reject? Well, let's just take a look at this right here. I think we could possibly go as high as this prior trend line. So if you look at this prior trend line, I'm going to zoom out here. You can see how much significance this line has. It's basically been carrying us all the way since 2020. And you can see that when we broke this trend line, look, we broke this trend line right here, massive dump, massive dump. Look at the volume. Let me just zoom out here. Look at that volume, that much volume on yesterday's price action. So, now we see much less volume. I mean, the volume is almost like half. So, we're not quite half. It's about 113.6 million. So what I can do is I could go on the NASDAQ website. I could look up Apple historical data. So I just type in Apple right here. And what I can do is I could look at the volume. So yesterday's volume was 182 million shares being traded. That's a lot. Now, if we look at yesterday's price action also, it was 142.6 million. So today's price action produced much less volume. So, maybe that could have been the bottom for a little bit. That could be the bottom for maybe the next few days, few weeks. Who knows? Maybe even Monday. That could be at the bottom until Monday. I mean, who knows? But the one thing I do want to point out is that volume did subside significantly today. And if we do start seeing volume trend lower, then that should be very bullish. And we could expect a rally here. So if you do notice, volume is much higher on days where you sell. And you could go back in history and look. I mean, there's certain days where, we do see volume like this, and it's high volume, and it's on a a green day. So it's not always true, but volume on selling tends to be bigger. And then when we tend to see lower volume, we tend to just see like a melt up. So we could have a melt up all the way to 156. This would definitely be, or 155-ish. This would be an area where, I would maybe be selling calls if I have Apple shares, or, I would just be trimming, or I would do something, trimming, hedging, something, or selling my calls, whatever. So this area, I would get careful. Now, another area that we could potentially go to is all the way to this 200-day moving average, right around 159.24. I don't think this is as likely, but we could go up there. And another area we could go to is we could just hit the top of this trend line, and we could reject. So still pay attention to this trend line. This trend line is probably, like I would say like the most important one right now that you need to pay attention to, because this has been resistance right there. So definitely pay attention to this trend line. And I do think that this is the one that is going to be the main one where we could reject off of, just because this trend line was, it went back almost 2 years and we broke it. So we invalidated this trend line. So when bears see us getting back up to these levels, this is going to give them a reason to start shorting. So Apple 156, 155-ish, I start getting a little bit bearish. And we're not too far away from that. It's really just, let's see, like 2, 4, it's about like 6% away. So about 6% from where we are, I would start getting a little bit bearish. If we do break above this, I truly don't know where we're going to go. Then I think, it would be like the 200-day moving average or the 50-day moving average, and then we'll reject. And then maybe we could end up drawing a trend line like this. Yeah, maybe something like this. I'm just speculating, because if we do start rallying from these levels, this 50-day moving average will start curling up. So, this could be like 164-ish. I'm just speculating here. So that would be my scenario. If we do make it above this trend line, I think we'll go back to the 50-day. And by that time, it'll be curling up a little bit. And let's just look at the weekly time frame. Let's see what happened on the week. Yeah, on the weekly time frame, it's interesting to see that 155, 155.3 is the 50-day on the weekly time frame. So this could be resistance, like I mentioned, because it lines up directly with this prior trend line. So yeah, be cautious around Apple 155. That's really an area you just got to be cautious. And that's also an area where if we break that, we have that bull rally or bear market rally, whatever you want to call it. But that's going to be very interesting to see if we could get back above these levels. So now let's move on to the next stock, or I guess ticker, ETF, whatever you want to call it. So S&P 500 SPY ETF. I'm going to go on the 1 year. Now we have something very similar here. I mean, if you watched yesterday's video, I was really alluding to this one intersection point where everything kind of colluded. We have this old resistance line, we have this prior support line, we have this support trend channel, which, it's support, but it's support going the other way. So it's not really like good support. It's just us going down lower. So where we are right now, we made it back above that. So right now, things will look a lot better than they did before. And I think we could start counting on this trend line to be support in the future. So right now we have a good 3 tests. And pay attention to where the body of this candle is. So yeah, if you look at the body of that candle, closed, or actually, right here we closed right around there. So, when we're looking at this, I would say resistance is definitely going to come at the top of this trend channel. So there's several areas of resistance that we could potentially see. I would think this 406 area is going to be resistance, because you can see that we tried getting there a few times, but we rejected each time. And then the next resistance, I would think, is right here at around 411. Notice when I zoom in, this was a doji. So when we built that doji that day, I guess we didn't really know, are we going up or are we going down? But when we went down the next day, well, yeah, we saw further selling. So I think this doji is going to be, this area right where the doji is going to be the next resistance. So right at around 411. And then the next one I would build out would probably be right around here at 418-ish. So that kind of lines up with the 20-day moving average, which is 418.13. And when I zoom out, we have this area right there, this prior support, this area right here, which was support. And then we have all this crazy price action right there. So 418. And then after 418, I would say 430 would probably be my next area. So why 430? Just because of this price action right there. We rejected right there. So what I would want to see is a higher high, one that's higher than this one. So we would have to get all the way back above there and above 430. But that's kind of a stretch. This is why I'm saying 430 as resistance, because it might be a little bit hard for us to get above this prior high right here. And we could just end up drawing a lower low and then come back to retest this trend line at a later time. Who knows? Or we could just reject right now. I really don't know where things are going. I'm just saying that if we do get bullish again, then these are the areas that we could reject that. So don't misinterpret what I'm saying. And just since we're so below all these moving averages, when I see stocks that are this low below the moving averages, what I like to look at is the weekly time frame. So when we zoom out, or zoom in, I guess, the what we ended up making it over is the 100-day moving average, which is 412. So to me, I see this as being a lot more bullish than we were yesterday. So yesterday, I was really starting to worry, are we going to make it back above 400? And if not, then we're going to close underneath the 100-day moving average on the weekly time frame. So now, when we actually look at what this pattern looks like, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks of red, but we ended on a hammer candle. So to me, I see this as being bullish. Now, I don't really know what next week is going to look like, but I'm a lot more bullish for next week than I was prior. By prior, I mean yesterday. So it really only takes a day for you to change your opinion. Now, of course, I could be wrong, but I'm just looking at this just based off the charts. And, I was looking at how overextended the dollar is. So I do think the dollar could cool down. And I guess I should show you where you guys can find information on the dollar. So we can go to investing.com. You're going to want to go to here, markets, currencies, and then you'll click on the dollar index. So you can see right now we're at 104.49. And this whole day we've just been selling off a little bit. So we're 30.34% down. But if we just look at this in the broad spectrum, the dollar's been really bullish. It's just been going up. So if we could just start fading a little bit, any kind of fade is appreciated by the stock market, as you can see. So the last few days we really rose sharply on the dollar. But today we just faded slightly and the equities really enjoyed it. So definitely pay attention to the dollar intraday. You'll see just how much it's affecting the fluctuations on Bitcoin and S&P 500 and all of that. So full focus is on the dollar. Now, the next thing I want to pay attention to is the NASDAQ. And, I guess the trend is a little bit more clear here. So you can see that this chart is basically apparent in every single chart I've been showing you guys, where we have these massive touches with this support trend line. So when I zoom in, you can kind of see that this trend line is touching the body of this candle. And we're also having that prior resistance line and this support line, and they're all kind of colluding at this one place. Now, recognize that we're in a very sharp downtrend channel. So we could actually reject as soon as maybe like QQQ 306. And then we'll have to see what happens then. I mean, we could just go up here, reject, and then do we break out of this channel? If we break out of this channel, I think that's highly bullish. Just because we've been in this channel for over a month now. So, I mean, if we start breaking out of this, I think it looks good. And, when we're looking at resistance, I would say I would probably look at this old support area. This massive move that happened in February, I would see this as resistance. So that's like 318, which happens to line up with the 20-day moving average. And then maybe the 50-day moving average would be the next area. So that's right around, I would think if we start rallying, then that could be moving up to maybe around like 340. So I do think if we start rallying from here, this should curve a little bit to maybe 340, which lines up with this resistance right there. And since we're so far below, we're going to use that technique where we look on the weekly and see what we're missing out on. So, yeah, I would also think that we'll see resistance here at 329.15, which is the 100-day moving average on the weekly. You can see once we lost that, we really started knifing down. And you can see that this was prior support. So I would think that, yeah, this is probably the primary resistance if we do make it past that 20-day moving average on the 1-year time frame. So always keep that in mind that when we're so far down below the moving averages on the yearly time frame, start looking on the weekly, which is the 5-year. Now XLF. Now with XLF, we've really been fading so hard, but recognize that this is a falling wedge. If we start breaking out of this, pay attention to this prior support line, which is now acting as resistance. Now look, this trend line right here, which is the falling wedge, and our price action lines up right here at this intersection, 33.77. If we can make it past this, I think we have a serious chance to rally, maybe all the way to 35.28. And this could really affect SPY in a positive way. So remember that SPY isn't just all technology. It has a lot of banks in there. So if the financials start rallying again, we could see a pretty big, substantial rally on SPY. And let's go out. Let's look at the weekly. So yeah, we closed above the 100-day on the weekly. We actually fell below it earlier this week too. And when you do look on the week, we did kind of close this little gap right here. So maybe we could see a rally, a pretty decent sized rally, all the way here to 35 possibly. So maybe this could be a good trade. Who knows? I mean, I got one call option just for the heck of it. XLF call options are pretty darn cheap because it doesn't move a whole lot. But if we do break out of this wedge, I do think we could see a pretty rapid rally. So maybe it's worth it, maybe not. I mean, it's not crazy expensive, so you're not going to break the bank. Now, Microsoft, we're seeing, yeah, the exact same thing. I mean, this is why I made such a point out of it, because you see this on every single chart. Every single chart. Well, maybe not the crappy specs, but you see this on all of the good charts. So now you see this three-way intersection again. We're back into this wedge. And also recognize that, yeah, this is a wedge. We're going off this old resistance. And we have, well, I guess this old resistance is support now. And then now we have this new resistance. And if we start breaking out of this, then maybe we could go right up here. And if this is a trend channel, and this is a wedge within the trend channel, then we could just hit the upper bound of this trend channel right here. So that could be around like maybe, I think it'll line up with the 20-day, so maybe like 277.32 could be our first resistance area. Let's just zoom out, see if that has any significance. Yeah, I guess it does. Some prior support right here. And let's see, where else? I would think right here, definitely. The 50-day is obviously going to be resistance. So I would think that if we do rally, maybe that would be around like 292, in my opinion, would be pretty big resistance here. And let's go on the weekly time frame. So on the weekly time frame, we basically have the base of this candle closing above the 100-day moving average. So to me, this is good. And we knifed underneath it, and then we made a lot of it back just today, really. So if you look, Microsoft is up 2.26% on the day. And we're back above, I guess we're not really above it. We're basically right here. Yeah, this could be a very short-term resistance right here, around 263. Yeah, I think so far it doesn't look too bad. I mean, we're back within all of this price action here. So all we got to do is break out of this wedge, and then things will look a little bit better here. Now, UVXY. So this is why I feel a little bit uncomfortable. We're not really out of the woods yet. I mean, look at this trend line. We're right on this trend line. We have a gap right here. So maybe this gap gets filled. Maybe Monday we just do a gap and go. Gap right up, and then we fade. Who knows? I don't really know what's going to happen here. But I could also recognize this as being a head and shoulders pattern. So that's the left shoulder, that's the head. This is the right shoulder. We never made it above, so we didn't make a higher high. We could still make a higher high, who knows? But right now, I think it's more likely that we break this trend line because as I did mention in the last video, when you do start seeing price action on volatility start rounding out, it tends to die off. And I also talked about in prior videos that there's not a whole lot of catalysts going on at the end of this month. We saw a lot of that with the CPI, the PPI, and all of that. That happened all this week. So, I think the back half of this month is very dry, not a whole lot going on. So I do think that it's pretty likely that volatility could fade off. And if we do break underneath this trend line, I happen to think that there's a lot of love that's going to come in for the S&P 500. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm a little bit bullish, but also, a little bit bearish because we could just bounce right off here and then go to all-time highs. Who knows? So that could always happen. So What I wanted to talk about again is pay attention to the volume. Volume was significantly lower today. For SPY, let's see, volume was 103 million. We could look up what that actually is in comparison to yesterday. Oh boy, lag again as usual. We'll get some better internet here, but you guys can look this up yourselves. I do think it was lower today. And yeah, since I'm lagging like crazy, I guess that's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed and try to relax over the weekend. Hopefully next week is bullish. Keep in mind that we had 6 straight weeks of downward price action, and maybe it is time for that bear market rally. So enjoy, have a good one, and welcome to all the new people.